Hey folks, I'm Donnie the Fuzzy Face Fisherman. Thanks for joining me here at Red Dirt Fishing. I'm going to show you 3 baits I'm tying on to start my fishing in the month of April here in Red Dirt Country. Alright, so fishing in the month of April can be an exciting time of year. The spring is great weather, generally a good season for fishing. You know, you get spawn going on. Usually by later in April, you know, your spawn starts wrapping up. But 1st of April time frame, usually the spawn's in full swing. And finding fish is generally not real hard. So your options for fishing can be quite unlimited, some might say. And you know, the baits I fish with, I'll say this is where I'm starting, but these are not by no means the only baits I'm fishing with for the month of April. So without further ado, the first bait I'm going to show you here, it's called the Jabberjaw. All right, I'm going to show this to you. I got this in a, see if it'll focus on the label there. It's a square bill chatterbait hybrid, right? So this bill vibrates back and forth as you drag it through the water. It creates all kinds of havoc. I got it in my mystery tackle box, shout out. I believe last month or month before last. I've got 2 different sizes here. I've got one with, this is the bigger blade. I've got the smaller blade actually tied on my reel somewhere. But these things have got some crazy action in the water. I cannot even try to describe it. You got to see it. Makes a lot of racket. It's got a nice wobble to it. Bounces off cover nicely. I'm a pretty big fan of these Jabberjaws. I've lost one, but I still got 2 in the tackle box. This one is the bigger blade, and this sucker has got all kinds of wobble to it. You know, if you want to tone it down, you can use a smaller blade. But this is the first blade, or I'm sorry, this is the first bait you're going to find tied to my lines in the month of April is the Jabberjaw. It's got a little bit of a rattle to it, I think. Yeah, a little bit of rattle in it. Very, very slight, but the paint job on it is awesome. That's the first bait, right? All right, so that thing makes a lot of racket in the water. If I want to slow things down and go a little bit more on the side of finesse, it's hard to beat a Shaky Head, right? And the Shaky Head, that you know, it usually comes down to technique with Shaky Heads. But in my neck of the woods right now in Red Dirt Country, I've got some fairly clear water, right? So if the color I'm going with has got a little bit of watermelon there, you know, whatever kind of live fish forage color you have is what I'd probably recommend if you've got clear water like I do. I've got a little bit of a darker head on it, but I've got the screw-on head. It screws onto the head. It's not actually on the shank of the hook, but just want to show you the actual rigging I've got here. This is a bubble butt 13 fishing soft plastic I've got on there, and these things have got some cool fun action in the water. I won't say it floats, but what I have been known to do, I'll shove a end of a toothpick down in this and break it off, and that gives me a little more buoyancy in the butt, and it'll sit there and you get a little more action out of it when it's sitting there shaking and you're doing your action. That is the second bait you're gonna find tied to my lines in the month of April. The next bait, a little bit more sticking with the finesse side of things. I have personally found in the month of April in Red Dirt Country anyhow, the fish aren't what I would call super active as far as hunting goes. They're a little bit more stagnant or stale, if you will. They don't, I don't want to call them lethargic, because they will move and they can move and they will chase occasionally. But generally speaking, they're just hanging out. The spawn isn't in effect and they're just guarding their nests. You know, so that being said, the third bait is actually going to be a fluke, right? And I've talked about this before, but I want to show you the rigging here. Got my soft jerk rigged up here on my hook. Now this is a little bit different size or different style EWG hook I got. I'm just gonna show you what I got there, but any EWG will work. You rig it up as usual, as you would expect. This isn't what I wanted to show you. The leader right there, I've got a swivel tied on, call it 16 inches, 18 inches maybe. I've got a swivel on there. Now, the reason I put a swivel on here is when you're sitting there jerking this thing and working it through the water, it has a tendency to twirl. And I'm here to tell you, I am a stickler about making sure my things are on my hook, square, straight. And even when doing so, I still get a lot of twist and spin to my baits while I'm jerking it through the water. That swivel right there is going to help keep things from getting too wild and crazy. I'm a pretty big fan of tying a swivel. Now, second thing that swivel is going to do is, in the event I want to work this thing higher up in the water column, I can actually get a little bit of a bait fish chasing a smaller forage for a hopefully bigger bass to go after this bad boy. But that is going to be the third bait I've got tied to my lines in the month of April, right? It's going to be a soft jerk bait. I call it a Fluke. Some people like using the ones that's got a little more buoyancy to them. You can put a weighted hook on them. Lots of options, but generally I do it weightless. It's a Fluke on a swivel. There's my rigging. Third bait for the month of April. So I've got 2 finesse baits and 1 crazy wild party bait. The finesse baits, I found my finesse baits generally get a little bit more action this time of year. Like I was saying, the fish aren't real, I won't say they're not necessarily on the hunt in my neck of the woods. So if I can put the soft bait in their area and work it through that bass bed, I can, I'm generally looking for the strike on the fall of the bait as you're working it, whether it's the shaky head or whether it's the jerk bait or whatever the case may be. As I'm working it through, I'm expecting that strike on the fall. Now, I mentioned nice weather first part of the video, and the weather actually has been beautiful. We're getting a nice spring here in the red dirt country, and that means morning fishing, evening fishing, it's fair game, right? And what do we like to fish with in the mornings and the evenings? We're frogging, guys. We're frogging. This is the bonus bait for the month of April, right? We are frogging. I've got a Guggen frog tied on here. I like spro frogs too, but not necessarily the popping frogs. I like the walking frogs. I can get a little more, I feel like I've got a little more control over the walking frogs versus the popping frogs. Now, fishing with this thing actually last night, I got it hung up in some docks, and some, the rafters of the docks. I had to go fish it out because I love my frogs. This is the only one I had in the tackle box last night, so I wanted to make sure I didn't lose this guy. Did catch 2 fish on it. I will say this, open water probably isn't the best time to use your frog. I'm targeting cover, right? I'm looking for your laydowns, I'm looking for your docks, I'm looking for these places, and a lot of those beds, those bass beds tend to be in open waters, and if they're really shallow, okay, maybe I'll fish it with a frog. I do believe in the old saying, fish a frog when others won't, and you'll be surprised at the results. And so I do stick by that motto. That being said, I still try not to just get out in wide open water with a frog and out there. That's just not where you're going to find a frog in the real world. So I do try to keep that in the back of my mind as well. Guys, those are the baits I'm fishing with in the month of April. I hope that helps you out. If it does, drop me a comment. Let me know what you're fishing with this month. I am Donnie, the Fuzzy Face Fisherman. Thanks for joining me here in Red Dirt Country. Until next time, tight lines to you guys.